Okay, welcome back. How did you like Man in the Dark? Boy, you guys are a very generous audience. Yes, an audience with low standards. That's what I like. Okay, very good, very good. I appreciate that very much. And I want to thank, I neglected to thank him at the top of the last show, the man responsible for that. A lot of times I have to push and fight and, to get studios to resurrect some of these old films. But in this case, it was Grover Crisp, who is the head of the library at Sony Pictures, who actually came to me and said, how would you like to show Man in the Dark in 3D, because I'm doing a digital restoration of the film, which I had not even dared ask for, and Grover just did that on his own. There are some really, really good people out there who are trying to keep our cinematic legacy alive, and Grover is one of the real heroes in that regard. At Sony, which owns the Columbia Pictures Library, Grover preserves everything there, whether anybody asks for it or not. They see it as their responsibility to actually protect everything that is in the archive, and that is greatly appreciated, because you never know when some undiscovered masterwork like Man in the Dark will be rediscovered. Okay, now here's the weird story behind the film that you're about to see. Most of what I'm going to talk about has to do with how you are actually seeing this film tonight. But I'm going to get out of the way its noir pedigree, if you will, because some people will say, Eddie, you're out of your mind. It's in 3D and it's in Technicolor. How can it possibly be noir? And my answer to that is simply, this is The Postman Always Rings Twice, told from the point of view of the victim. And to me, that is a very noir thing indeed. I will leave it at that. That's my entire explanation as to why I consider this film to be noir. This is something that has shown as recently as maybe 6 or 7 years ago in its original 35mm 3D Technicolor form, which requires 2 projectors. It requires an intermission because you're running a right eye and a left eye film, right, so that it makes an image that you can perceive as 3D. So when the reels run out, they had to actually stop the show and put the next reels on the projector. So during the course of the film tonight, you will suddenly see a thing come up on the screen that says, intermission. Do not leave your seats. Because there really isn't an intermission. That's just in the original print of the film. Obviously, it is impossible for theaters today to show 3D and 35mm. It's too much of a hassle. It's too much trouble. The prints are beat to hell and all that.
Not true. We show two projector 3D at the Capitol Theater in Olympia.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Just so people know.
Just so, it is possible, but it is extremely difficult. Thank you for that. Correct. But here's the deal. Several years ago, 20th Century Fox was putting out a series of noir films on DVD. It was the Fox Film Noir Collection. And when they got up to about 20 in the series, they were debating whether or not Inferno qualified and whether or not they would put it in the series. They decided to do it. My friend Alan Rohde did an audio commentary for the film. A documentary was shot about the making of the film, in which I appeared and several other people, including a wonderful guy named Ray Zone, who is known as the king of 3D in the world, really. And then they gave the film, the left and right eye reels and everything, to a guy named Dan Sims to do this anaglyph version of the film for a home entertainment product. And Dan did this, but then at the last minute, I guess Avatar came out, And all of a sudden, the studios were looking for potential properties that they could adapt to 3D in the home entertainment market. And so Fox thought, well, maybe we can put Inferno out in 3D that you can actually buy. Well, that never happened. That market never developed. So they pulled the plug on Inferno completely. They took all the elements back from Dan Sims, and nothing ever came of it. Then Dan Sims died. It was kind of shocking. And Ray Zone, whom I mentioned, the king of 3D, went to Dan's estate sale. And he found a shoebox labeled Inferno. And inside were some DVDs. And he took this home and he played it, and sure enough, unbeknownst to 20th Century Fox, Dan had actually completed a complete digitized 3D version of Inferno. So Ray invited me to his apartment and said, "You're not going to believe this, but Inferno is now available as a digital 3D product." But Ray did not want to be perceived as pirating this, so he asked me to kind of broker the situation with 20th Century Fox and let them know that you guys might not be aware of this, but your film is actually in digital form now. Then we actually showed this to the LA 3D Club on October 28th of 2012, and Ray and I presented the film, and that was the first time that the digital version of this film had been shown publicly. Ray actually died a week and a half later. Before our grand plans to have the Inferno tour this year, Ray died. Now, don't think that I am not aware of a curse that appears to be attached to this film. I survived the screening in San Francisco, I'm happy to say. So it is with great pride and trepidation that I am here tonight to present this digital version of the film, which now is the official sanctioned version that 20th Century Fox will present to the world as Inferno. One little thing I want to warn you about, the transfer of the sound is probably not as great as it could be, and we are hoping that in its final restored form, when Fox does actually put a few bucks behind the true restoration of this film, that the sound will be enhanced a little bit. So having said all of that by way of explanation, I also want to thank a man named Eric Kurland, who's the president of the Los Angeles 3D Club, who was responsible for making this DCP, digital cinema package, from the work that Dan Sims originally did. But in particular, I want to thank Ray Zone, who taught me everything I know about 3D. He was a great friend and a really, really great guy. And I miss him terribly, and I dedicate this screening and all future screenings that I host of Inferno to him. He's a marvelous guy. So Ray thanks you, because he dedicated his entire life to 3D, and he just wanted to see this film shown. So tonight, Ray, this is for you. Enjoy Inferno.